I'm Tiffany. Welcome to Towering TBR. If you're new, I am chronically ill and disabled and was able to actually read 2 books with Migraine Rep this month. I read a wide variety of genres, as will be evidenced by my shorty September. I actually only read 4 shorties. The other 9 were novel length. My reading was all over the place in terms of ratings, but I definitely read 3 outstanding reads, which I will save till the end of the video. I am also going to leave chapter markers so you can check out the books that you're interested in. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can see all of my bookish content. The first I read was Traces of Madness by Fernando Balius. This is a graphic memoir from a Spanish man who has schizophrenia and has auditory hallucinations. The art wasn't exactly my favorite. I do think it was really good at portraying this kind of cracking of reality and not knowing what is real and what isn't. It's also not a linear story. It's very fractured and messy, and I thought it was really successful in helping us understand how he feels. Now, Fernando Balius is actually a pseudonym because he said that if people find out at his work that he hears voices, that he would likely be fired, and so he didn't feel comfortable publishing it under his own name. It was really good, and I would definitely recommend if you're looking for a graphic memoir on schizophrenia. Lightfall is the other graphic work I read by Tim Probert. This is an adorable middle grade fantasy that I heard about first from Heather over at Too Many Heathers. She and her kid really loved it, and I can absolutely see why. The art is just stunning. It is so gorgeous. So we are following this young girl. She is working for her grandfather, who is a wizard, and is out in the woods foraging materials so that they can build potions. She has a near miss and is saved by Cad the Galdurian, who turns out he wants to speak to her grandfather about translating an ancient scroll. So when they head back to the castle, they find that the grandfather is missing, that he has gone to try and fix a magical problem that has gone awry. And the rest of the book is just them going out, trying to find the grandfather and fighting different battles. And it's super adorable. I think it's really funny as well. The wizard grandfather is a pig. He's the pig wizard. And Kat is saying something along the lines of, "But you're not a pig, you're a human." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm adopted." Had a very wry sense of humor, and I really loved it. And fortunately, it is a trilogy, so I will be picking up book 2 soon. I read Replay by Ken Grimwood. This is my lowest rated of the month. I only am giving this 2 stars. So the story is about Jeff. We open the story and Jeff is 43 and is having a heart attack and dies. And he wakes up in his 18-year-old self with all of his memories from his previous life. So, of course, the first thing he has to do is use his prescience to make money. He makes a lot of money and at 43, again, dies and is brought back to his 18-year-old self. And he lives these multiple different lives. One trying to get really wealthy, one trying to reconnect with his wife, or his ex-wife, really. Another to have like all the sex, and another to try and figure out why he's getting to live his life multiple times. There is so much talk about boobs and nipples, and during the sex scenes, sure, that makes sense. But like, it could just be a girl walking down the street and he's like, nipples. This was written in 1986, and the misogyny and the men writing women like really, really shows. So the plot was actually kind of interesting, but Jeff is a very unlikable character, and I didn't really like the writing. So 2 stars. I reread All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is one of my shorties, and it is a science fiction book about an AI murder bot. He is a security unit that is helping with a research team on a planet, and he is basically their defense. And there's a mystery, and some things are going wrong, and Murderbot has to help. I've heard so many people say that they love Murderbot. Like, he's not interested in humans at all. He just wants to watch his TV, like his programs, and is very reluctant to be around the humans. As I'm a voracious sci-fi reader now, I thought maybe I missed something because so many people recommend this series to me. So I decided I would reread it, and I still give it 3 stars. The problem I have with it is we are in the middle of the conflict towards the end of the book, and then it's like, oh, it's over, and here's how it played out, and that's it. I don't know if it's because it's a novella, but it just didn't feel like it had enough time to really play out the whole story, and the resolution felt incredibly rushed. I am going to pick up book 2 to see if maybe it gets better. If you've read this series, let me know because I'm still pretty underwhelmed with it. I then picked up Amari and the Despicable Wonders, book 3 by B.B. Alston. This was going to be a trilogy, but it is now going to be a 5-book series. And while I was disappointed in the ending of this one as well, it's not going to stop me from picking up books 4 and 5. We got so much world building. There was so much tension. There's a rogue magician, and people are trying to figure out what's going on. But the last 3 chapters just felt rushed. It felt like he just wanted to tie it up really neatly. And maybe he did that because it was supposed to be the end. I don't know. But I was really disappointed. And like, we would sometimes get characters that were in peril, but instead of worrying about them, he would just like say later on, oh yeah, they're fine. I buddy read this with Chattie, and she really enjoyed it. The things that irritated me did not bother her. So maybe check her out if you want another review of it. I then picked up The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. So A Wizard of Earthsea is about Sparrowhawk. He is a young magician, and in the beginning, his village is getting attacked by another force. And with his magic, he creates a fog that obscures them that ends up saving his village. This is basically like a prequel to when he will be a great hero. But we find out that, he's learning magic, he's making enemies at magic school, and in an impetuous, impulsive move, he does something that he needs to undo, something he needs to fix. And that's basically book 1 of him going around trying to be a hero and trying to fix this problem he caused early on. I was hoping it would be a 5-star. I really, really, really love Ursula K. Le Guin's writing, and I don't think I was in the right mood for it because I only am giving it 3.5 stars. It was a great read, but I just had incredibly high expectations. Speaking of buddy reads, I buddy read Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh with Becca over at Read Becca. I'll link her in the description too. This was on the Le Guin Prize for Fiction shortlist, and it won the Hugo for Best Novel, and I was really excited to pick it up. We are following a human supremacy cult that lives on this little asteroid. They are training their children to fight the aliens and also any humans who want to cooperate, which they call traitors. Something diverts our protagonist's path, and she starts to find out things that she didn't previously know. Basically, she grew up in a space cult, and there were lots of really interesting ideas. It had a lot of interesting themes, and the pacing was quite fast, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. The first of the books with migraine rep that I picked up was The Stardust Grail by Yume Kitasei. This is described as an art thief pulling off a heist, and she also has migraines. And I figure the migraines are probably going to get in her way. I couldn't do a heist on one of my worst days, or, well, if I'm being honest, probably not on my best days either. So I picked this book up. We are following Maya. She is hired to find the Stardust Grail, this artifact that is believed to be lost. The humans want the artifact because it will help them create nodes, which will basically be gateways to other parts of space. But she has a best friend who is an alien, a Frenro named Uncle, and in order for the Frenro to reproduce, they need the Stardust Grail. And due to a lot of war, this species is dwindling quickly. And so while Maya is hired by the aliens, she is working with Uncle a defecting military person, and a medical AI to try and get the Grail first. She's not the only one looking for it. I thought the world building was really good. I thought the pace was really compelling. But I felt like the migraine rep was a little bit weak. She is traveling crazy fast speeds, not getting regular sleep, not eating regular meals, all of which can make migraines worse. And, well, I don't know about the hyperspeed. I'm just assuming. And yeah, she didn't have all that many migraines, which I found a tad unbelievable, but it did help speed the narrative along. The other book I read that has migraine rep, 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. So this is a second chance love story. Eva has migraines, and I felt like this migraine rep was really realistic. It shows how debilitating migraines can be and how you can go from being able to function in 1 minute to basically not being able to do anything shortly after. She is a famous paranormal smut writer, and she gets invited to a literary panel where the first person had to drop out. And she feels really intimidated because these are all like lit fic people who might have won prizes, and she writes like a long-running paranormal smut series. But when she goes, she sees her longtime ex, Shane. He is a very famous and well-off author who writes in the literary fiction genre, and they reconnect. We find out why they broke up in the first place, which was heartbreaking, and we get to see just basically how they met when they were teenagers and what that relationship was like, and how they are rekindling this relationship now. It does take place in over 7 days in June, so it is a really short period of time, but their chemistry felt really believable because they had that previous relationship already. This also talks about real problems. Shane had addiction issues and has turned his life around and become a mentor to young at-risk youth. And Eva also has some baggage with her mother, who was mentally ill, and her feeling very much like sick people don't deserve love, because that's what her father showed. And it just felt really realistic, that the situations didn't feel contrived, and that's really important for me in romance. Eva also has a tween daughter that she is raising on her own. And the daughter, when she talks to Shane about her mom, she said something that I just thought was really beautiful and understanding. She said, "You might feel bored, lonely, or even rejected, but she can't help being sick." And I loved that. I love this understanding and these relationships. And I was definitely rooting for this couple. I think that this writer is quite good, and I plan to pick up more by her. If you've read any of her other books and you want to recommend them, let me know in the comments down below. The next book I picked up was Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. This is the sequel to House in the Cerulean Sea. I am going to have to spoil the first book in order to talk about the second book. So if you have not read the first book, The House in the Cerulean Sea, don't want to be spoiled on it, please skip ahead to the next chapter, because unfortunately I can't talk about it without spoilers. Okay, if you're still here, I'm assuming you're fine with being spoiled, or you have already read the book. So at the end of the book, Arthur and Linus are a couple. They are taking care of the 6 kids in the orphanage, and that's how the first book starts. They are talking about adopting a 7th magical child who might need a place to stay. But of course, the government doesn't trust these magical people and sends out another person to try and find a reason to pull the kids out. I think this was very saccharine and sweet, very cozy and fun. I feel like you have to be in the kind of mood for that, or else it might just be too much. But I thought that the kids were great. I liked hearing about the new child and the different things that he liked to do. I enjoyed it, but I definitely think it won't be for everybody. Okay, these last 3 are the best reads of September. The first is Impossible Creatures by Katherine Rundell. This has actually come out in the UK last year and has actually won so many awards and has been favorably compared to C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. So I had very high expectations going into it, and it did not disappoint. I loved the first line. It says, "It was a very fine day until something tried to eat him." So we are following two kids. The first is Christopher. He is 12 and is living with his grandfather for the summer. His father is quite overprotective, and so when he is told not to go past the hill, of course, that's the first thing he does. He goes past the hill. And in the water, he sees something struggling, and so he jumps in to save whatever it is and discovers it is a griffin. And he takes the griffin back to his grandfather and is like, "What is going on? Griffins do not exist. How is this griffin here?" And his grandfather explains that there is a magical world and that he is kind of the gatekeeper between the normal world and the magical world, and that someday it will be Christopher's responsibility to be the guardian. We are also following Mal, a girl who lives in the magical world, and it is her griffin. They team up together because something is going wrong in the magical world. Something is stealing the magic and is basically causing extinction to several magical creatures. The characters are fun. We also meet a berserker who has no fear and decides to defend the children. And we also meet a tiny dragon who I absolutely adored. I loved this. This had so much world building and so many creatures. I swear, if you like magical creatures, you should definitely pick this up. In the back, there's even a bestiary where it has drawings of the different magical creatures and some additional lore about them. And I just found this such a joy to read. This is actually going to be, I think, a trilogy, maybe a series. And I've already put book 2 on my TBR because I can't wait for more. This book is phenomenal. I definitely urge you to pick it up if you like middle grade fantasy, especially magical creatures. Lola in the Mirror by Trent Dalton. This is awesome. I read his first book, Boy Swallows Universe, and absolutely loved it. It's on my favorite shelf. 5 stars all the way. And this is a 4.5. It was so close, but I couldn't give it the same just because of a few issues. But I really enjoyed this. We are following our 17-year-old unnamed protagonist and her mother, who are basically on the run. When the child was a baby, her mother tried to leave to escape a domestic violence situation, and the father would not allow her to take her daughter, and so she killed him and has been on the run ever since. The daughter has never known her real name because the mother is fearful that they could get caught. One day we see an emergency happening. A mother loses control of her stroller and the baby falls into the river, and the protagonist's mother jumps in and saves the baby, but dies. And afterward, it is just her journey trying to figure out who she is, what her name is, where she came from, and what she wants to do next. Finding out her identity is quite difficult because she is working for a drug kingpin who does not want to let her go. Oh, I did want to mention that similar to Boy Swallows Universe, there is a sliver of magical realism in here. In reference to the title, our unnamed protagonist talks to a girl she sees in her magic mirror called Lola, and Lola basically kind of gives her advice. I wouldn't call this a thriller, but it is definitely a crime novel, and I found the pacing very compelling, and I really loved this book. Trent Dalton has one other book available, All the Shimmering Skies, which I think is a World War II story, which I've read a lot of those, but I think it's set in Australia because Trent Dalton is Australian, and that would be a perspective I haven't checked out before. If you've read it, let me know in the comments if it's any good, because I have ridiculously high expectations for his books now. Okay, and the last book is my absolute favorite of the month, Not Till We Are Lost by Dennis E. Taylor. This is book 5 in the Bobaverse. It was a really good addition to the series. So, because it's book 5, I can't really tell you a whole lot of details, but in book 1, we follow Bob. Bob has decided to pay for his consciousness to be uploaded after he dies, and he is put in a von Neumann probe, which basically means that he can clone himself and other spaceships to explore space, meet sentient creatures, and to try and eliminate threats to humanity. And it is fun. it's funny in parts, and it's very expansive. I really enjoyed book 5 because most of the books are mostly Bob clones. We don't get very many other characters, and we got quite a few new characters in this one. We also got a new overarching threat to the sentience in this area. We got to see some wormhole travel, and I absolutely loved it and cannot wait for book 6. It hasn't even been announced, but I'm like, yes, I need more. So my reading was all over the place this month, but I definitely had some great ones to recommend. What was the best book you read in the month of September? Have I piqued your interest in any of these books? Let's have a chat down in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye. Happy reading.